Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first video that you're watching, welcome. If this isn't your first video, welcome back. So today I'm going to be filming the long-awaited updated VAT video. So about a few months ago, I filmed my initial VAT video, which I will go ahead and link up here. This is when I went to Paris back in February, and I didn't expect it to get so many views, but it's now become one of my most watched videos, and I still get a lot of questions to this day about things that I didn't include in that video. So when I went to Europe just a few weeks ago, I knew that when I came back, I was going to be going and making an even more in-depth video. I would say this video doesn't replace that video, so please, if this is the first video that you're watching of mine, I would highly recommend you go watch that video first, just to understand the very basics about what a VAT is, maybe like what forms look like, what countries have the highest VAT refund, etc. In this video, I'm going to be going over some more specifics, such as what to do when you get back to your country, so like how to declare customs, some other refund providers that I haven't heard of, and just some other tips and tricks that I really wish I had known, because believe it or not, even though it seems like I knew everything about the process in the first video, Spain was such a different country than Paris that I might not be getting some of my refunds. So I'll go ahead and I'll dive into that. But again, I think this video is going to be super helpful no matter where you're going to in Europe, because you never know what forms you're going to get. So this video hopefully will help answer any of your guys' questions. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and let's get started, and please give this video a like and subscribe down below. In terms of what I'm going to be covering in this video, I'm going to put timestamps down below like I do as always. I'm going to be going over this bag, which is basically the only luxury item I purchased in Spain, how much I got back onto my credit card, and I have the exact dollar amounts, and I'm going to compare that to what I received back in France. So we're going to be able to see, the price differences in terms of how much of a VAT refund you're going to get back in different countries. And I sort of discussed that in my first video, but this is going to be the exact dollar amount. I'm also going to be going over, the different tax refund forms, because even though this is the only luxury item I purchased, believe it or not, different countries have different minimums. So in Spain, there's actually no minimum at all. So you could go to Zara, buy a pair of like $5 socks and still get a tax refund form. So I'm going to be going over that. I'm going to be going over the actual process itself, because not sure how it is in other parts of Europe, but at least for Spain, the terminals at the airport were way different than France, and it was actually really confusing. Next, I'm going to be diving into steps into how to actually claim your refund. Yes, claim your refund, believe it or not, some are automatic. So there's steps that you need to initiate so you can actually ensure that you're getting that money back. So that's pretty much all I would say, like the tax refund details. I'm going to be going over some other details, like tips, like how you can get extra promotions, how to sign up for, the tax refund sites before you actually get there, so that when you actually do go and shop, it makes your life 10 times easier. I'm going to be going over some other tips, like best travel cards, how to pay with cash or get cash refunds, and, some other tips. So yeah. Hopefully this video is really helpful, and if there's any questions that you still have, make sure to leave them down below and I'll do my best to answer. Before I got into the specifics of how much I paid for this bag, I did really want to provide a quick overview. Again, I really recommend that you go watch the first video, but in case you guys don't have time, at the end of the day, VAT stands for value added tax. So in the European Union, all the price tags that you see have price included in it, versus in the US or in Canada, we see the item price, and then when we go to check out, we have additional tax that's added on top of that. So for visitors who are visiting, different countries in Europe, if you buy something and you have your passport on you proving that you aren't a European citizen, then when you leave the country, the tax that you paid initially is just refunded to you. So at the end of the day, that's all it is. And again, would highly recommend you look up each country that you're going to and the rules there, because if you're going to multiple countries, and I showed the map in my first video, different countries have different refund rates. So if you're visiting 3 different countries, it might be strategic of you to buy in the country that has the highest refund rate, because you're likely to get back more. So this is the Marelle, which I bought in Spain, and I'm going to pull out the other bags to show you that I bought in February. So this is the Neverfull that I bought back in Paris in February as well. And then I also have my Boosie, which is a crowd favorite on this channel, that I also bought back in Paris in February. So for the sake of this video, because I want to give you guys exact amounts, I'm going to be going over how much I got from the Neverfull. And I'm going to be doing that because if you watched my story time, you might remember that I had some issues with the Marelle and that I couldn't for some reason charge it on my credit card. So we charged it on my partner's card. Of course, like I paid him back, but like the refund isn't in my bank account, which is why I'm going to be doing the, review of the differences in price on the Neverfull, because that's actually what's in my account. So if we look at the Neverfull right here, and then we look at the Marelle. So for the Neverfull, I paid 2,000 euros. Looking at my bank statement, the conversion at the time, which was about like, I would say like 1 to like 1.14. So this ended up being a 2,000 euro bag, ended up being $2,275. And let's see, looking at my tax statement, I ended up getting back 248 US dollars. So I'll put the math on the screen here, but 248 over 2,275 is essentially a 10.94% refund back on my total purchase. France's total VAT refund is 20%, but again, like I was saying in my first video, you have to take into account fees, you have to take into account their conversion rate, which isn't as favorable. And again, I'll try to like post a picture here about how like Global Blue, for example, might determine how much to actually refund you. But yeah, we'll just say 10.94% is the final refund I got on this bag. Looking at the Marelle, I paid 1,750 euros. It's since increased to 1,800, but we're gonna go with the price I paid for it because that's what my refund is based off of. So 1,750 for this bag, which at the time, because I actually had a really good conversion rate, I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Even though this was 1,750 euros, I ended up paying only 1,723 US dollars. So the USD was actually less than the euros. Looking at my bank statement from the refund I just got last week, I got back $226.64. So again, doing the math of 226.64 over 1723.22, that's a 13.15% back. So almost, like 2 to 3%, just because I purchased in 2 different countries, because Spain had a more favorable VAT rate. So yeah, this is a perfect example of confirming, what I mentioned in my first video about how if you're going to different countries, it might be strategic of you to think which country you actually purchase in. And of course, it's not like the biggest deal at the end of the day, like a few percent, but it's better than nothing. So the only reason why I chose these two and I didn't do Chanel is because Chanel was through a different provider. So I felt like it wasn't fair to compare, like not apples to apples. So for example, both of these refunds were issued through Global Blue, so I felt comfortable comparing them. If I were to compare this with the rate I got from Chanel, who was using Planet Free in Paris, it wouldn't be fair because again, the different types of tax refund providers all have different rates. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if there's more questions in the comments below. So now I'm going to be going into the more tactical process of what the VAT refund actually looks like. So for Louis Vuitton, it was exactly how it was in Paris, and they use Global Blue. So let me pull out the form right here. They'll essentially give you this envelope, and then within the envelope, there's going to be a sheet of paper, which I'll try to attach a picture right here, and it'll just show you how much you paid for the item and what you're going to be getting back. Now, this is what I was used to, where they sort of fill out the form on your behalf. So they'll input your address, they'll input your refund method, like what credit card you want it to go to. So by the time you get to the airport, it's really easy. All you do is you have to scan. So when I got to the airport, I'll attach a picture right here, but they have these things called DIVA machines, and you just scan it. And again, I'll put a picture of what it looks like when it goes through, but you'll either get a green check or you'll be asked to actually go to customs. The difference between France and Spain is in France, it was all in one area. So let's say your form got rejected and you had to actually go to a customs officer. The customs officer was literally right behind you. Versus in Spain, there are DIVA machines all over the airport, but the DIVA machines I went to were before the actual security gate. But the customs officers weren't until you actually got into the gate. So after TSA. So that's one thing to know. You have to allot more time, I would say, for Spain versus France, because let's say there's issues with it, you need to be going to multiple different places, versus in Paris, if you have an issue, you just turn around and you ask the officer right there. So that's one thing to note. Something else that I wanted to cover, which this is where it was my bad and I didn't look actually carefully into it because I was just so used to, Global Blue and these luxury places where they sit you down and they fill out the form on your behalf. If you're going to places like Sephora or Zara or stuff, what they're going to do, and I'm going to try to show you and not blast my information at the same time, but they'll literally just give you a receipt. So as you can see, this is just a normal receipt, and this is what you scan, and you have the number right here, and I'm covering all my information. I'll try to attach a picture below, but this one was Global Blue, so it was actually not too bad because it all got connected to my account. So in my account, I essentially have a default refund method, which is my credit card. But let's say I was using you know, this one, which is actually a good example, which is the one from Sephora. And this is what I'll show you. So from Sephora, they used Planet tax-free. So again, same idea where you have, again, trying to hide my information, but you have a sort of form on here and you need to fill it out. So again, attaching a picture right here and trying to show you at the same time, but you essentially need to fill out this information right here, which is, you know, how do you want it refunded? Do you want it your credit card? Do you want like Alipay, you know, a cash refund, etc. And the idea is that you actually have to fill this out after you fill out the DIVA form, or actually you scan the DIVA form at the airport. You're actually supposed to mail these off. And that's where I went wrong, because in Paris, everything was digital because people had filled it out on my behalf. But if you're thinking about a store like Sephora or Zara, where it's not a luxury experience, they're not going to fill out the form on your behalf. So after you get home, you're responsible for filling it out and you need to drop it off at the airport so it's actually mailed out. So these are the envelopes that they give. And as you can see, all you need to do is, you know, put in the receipt and mail it off. So as you can see, you don't need to pay like postage because it's like prepaid for you, but that's one thing I didn't do. And the reason why I didn't do it is because I didn't see any boxes or anywhere for you to actually mail off your items. I just assumed if I have a green check, that means it's good. So I'll attach a picture right here. So this was the area where people had to go to have their items double checked, or if they wanted a cash refund. For me, I didn't want a cash refund, so I didn't think that anything else needed to be done, but I guess you would still wait in that line, and that's where you would drop off these forms right here. What's interesting is, you know, I was a little bit paranoid, so I waited in that line and I said, hey, you know, all of my tax refunds have, you know, a green check. Is there anything else I need to do? And he said, nope, you're all good to go. So I thought it was all good to go until I came back here, and a week later, I still haven't gotten 2 of my tax refunds. So the 2 tax refunds that I haven't got are from Planet and from Innova Tax Free. And these are because, you know, they just didn't fill out the forms. And, you know, I asked, like, do I need to do anything else? And I think maybe the customs officer was confused and he said no. The good thing though, which is interesting, is for Innova Tax Free, it was sort of annoying. You couldn't go on their website, but you had to download their app. And on their app, you could, you know, essentially log in, plug in your passport, and they could see that there were forms that were digitally validated. And you would essentially, like right there on the app, choose your refund method. So again, I'll attach a picture right here of what that looks like, but you essentially select your form and input your card information. So apparently, at least for this one, Innova Tax Free, I should be getting my refund in another week or so. And this was like a mom and pop souvenir shop. So maybe like that's why they used a smaller brand, because everything else, like I had 6 tax refunds total. 4 out of the 6 were all from Global Blue. But Innova Tax Free, I liked at least how, even though I didn't mail it off, I'm able to, after the fact, choose how I want to get my refund. Planet, on the other hand, is very confusing. It seems like they have like name changes over the last few years. So if you go on this website, like right here, this doesn't even exist anymore. And essentially they're like, you have to mail it back. But, you know, at this point, you know, this wasn't that much. It wasn't a luxury purchase. It was just like some makeup at Sephora. So I think I'm just going to cut my losses. But there's no way on the Planet Free Tax website, like how there is on the Innova Tax Free website, to actually go in and retroactively choose your payment method without having dropped it off at the airport. So again, I reached out to customer service. I still haven't heard back, but guys, like really make sure, like triple check, you know, for all of these places. Like I would say if there's somewhere to mail it, even though they say like a digital, you know, check is enough, just mail it just to be extra safe. Take pictures of your receipts, but don't make the same mistake I did. And again, I think if you're making mostly luxury purchases, you don't have to worry about it, because since it's a luxury experience, they'll sit there and they'll fill it out on your behalf so that when it is actually digital validated, it'll just go directly back on your account. But if you're making any purchases where they aren't asking you like, hey, like what credit card do you want it back on? Then maybe that's a sign for you like, hey, like they didn't fill this out. I need to fill it out and I need to mail it back. The other interesting thing is, as you saw, that line was really long and almost everybody was getting cash. But if you can guarantee that your refund is going to go back on your credit card, I would highly, highly recommend that, because they charge a cash fee or a cash handling fee if you take your refund in cash. And then you're also going to lose the conversion rate, because they might give it to you in euros, but you might need to reconvert it to USD. And again, nothing is going to beat your bank's conversion. So try to avoid fees if you can, unless you really want that cash. But again, I saw so many people waiting in line to get their cash refund. I would not advise doing that unless you really don't care and you just want cash right then and there. One thing about Spade in particular that I didn't get when I was in France is after each form that I did validate, I got a confirmation type of message. So again, I'll put that message right here, but it's essentially like you click it and it's a PDF confirming that, hey, your item was successfully validated at the DIVA portal. The question that I got the most in my last video was probably customs. So again, each country has different rules for what to declare and customs. So I'm speaking particularly about the US. In the US, I feel like the rules are so, just up in the air depending on like the airport you fly into, maybe your customs officer, and maybe just like the mood of how they're feeling that day. For me, I've never really had to declare anything. As a follow-up question in my Paris video, everything that I purchased, I was traveling with family and we just essentially split that up so that each person took a portion of that spend. You don't have to be the purchaser of that item to declare that item. So for example, the limit in the US is technically $800 per person. For this Marelle bag, which was the only bag that I bought my entire trip, it was about $1,600 after we deduct everything, right? So let's just call it $1,600. I was traveling with my partner. He declares $800, I declare $800, therefore we don't exceed the limit at all. So this is something that honestly people don't know. But yeah, I would highly advise you doing this. Sometimes it works if you're traveling in like a general group, as in like friends, but somebody left a comment in my last video that their customs officer that day didn't allow them to do it. But again, always be honest, because better safe than sorry. If they, for some reason, you tell them they have no items and then they decide to pull you over for a security check and they find these items, you might lose the items or you might end up paying fees as much as like the actual item itself just to keep it. So it's never worth it to play those games. Always just be honest and declare. Now we're going to dive into some VAT tips. So my biggest one is, if you can, sign up for the platform before you actually visit the country. And I think Global Blue is probably one of the most popular ones, and in my opinion, the most organized. They have a chat online, they have a hotline you could call, their app is very well made, and you can add it to your Apple Wallet. So I'll attach a picture here of what it looks like, but you can sign up before you go and just add it to your Apple Wallet. So if you're going to places, they can just scan it and they automatically have your name, your passport information, etc. Another really nice thing is, since I was already a member of Global Blue, I got like a 20% off coupon at participating vendors. I didn't use it because I wasn't interested in, making purchases at any of those vendors, but it included like Ferragamo, I think, and like a few others. So again, if you have this app and you have a profile before you actually make any purchases, then you're actually going to receive those promotions. So again, I think it's a huge time saver if you just sign up, if you can, beforehand. For places like Planet or Innova tax free, you can't sign up for, so do it on if necessary basis. But Global Blue, it's, I would say, like the most popular one. Just sign up for it beforehand. It doesn't take that long and it'll make your life a lot easier. Another great thing about Global Blue is how you're able to track throughout the entire process. So again, I'll attach some screenshots, but the moment you essentially get a purchase, you'll get an email with, here's your confirmation, here's your form. Once you actually go to the airport and validate it, you'll get a confirmation there. And just throughout the entire process, you'll be able to see the status of your refund. So as you can see, here's what it looked like when I just validated my form and it was processing, versus this is what it's going to look like after the refund is actually issued to you. So I think that's really nice. And again, you'll also get reminders throughout the entire process, so I think that's really helpful. Other biggest tip, which I said in my very first video, make sure you bring your passport. In addition to bringing your passport, always have a picture on hand, just in case. For me, I mostly use the picture if somebody needed to like ask my name or like ask my birthday. And some places honestly didn't check my physical passport. The luxury places did, but some like places like Sephora or Zara or these other places where they don't care as much and they aren't as strict, a picture was fine. So I didn't have to go into my bag and pull out my physical passport every single time. So have both, but having it on your phone will make it a lot easier. If they don't actually need to check the physical passport, you can like zoom into things and like show them exactly what they need. So that was also a tip that I had. Here are some other tips and tricks in terms of saving money and just being safe. So number one, I would say like definitely bring cash. I would say like probably don't purchase luxury items with cash, because again, it's just 10 times easier on your credit card. But for other like smaller like souvenirs or like other shops, have cash at all times, but separate your cash. So don't bring all your cash at once, leave some at the hotel in the safe. Same idea is with your credit cards. If you have multiple different credit cards that have no international fees, there's no need to bring all 4 of them out. Maybe bring 2 or bring 1 and leave the other at the hotel, because worst comes to worst, if something happens and something's stolen, then you just lost all of your credit cards at once. So that's a huge tip I have. I always separate, I have a small wallet for cards, I have a small wallet for cash, and I put my passport in a completely different pocket. Thankfully, nothing has happened to me, but this really minimizes the fact that you will literally be left with nothing. So that's something that I do, and I think it really helps. In terms of actually using the bags in the cities that you're going to, just overall be really cautious of the types of bags that you're using. I personally like crossbody, or I like shoulder bags if I'm riding a subway or stuff and I want to be a little bit more discreet. So I will like turn this bag against my body so that what the normal person's seeing is just like a black bag, because I don't want to call any more attention to myself. Another thing is, I would highly recommend not using open totes. I think that sounds like a no-brainer, but I feel like the Neverfull or like the Go Yard bag is everybody's favorite travel bag, but it's not really that safe. If you are going to use one, I would highly recommend putting an insert that has some sort of zipper so it's not just out there. Another big thing in Europe, if you go there, you'll probably see all these cafes just out in the open, meaning that it's not necessarily inside, but they're just, tables on the streets. Don't just put your bag on the table as you're sipping your coffee. Put it behind you, because, you'd be surprised how many people just are just sitting there enjoying their coffee. They think everybody looks normal, and some random guy just sweeps in, takes their bags, and run. So that's another tip. Again, seems like a no-brainer, but please guys, just make sure that you're being safe. This is one that I did this time around because I've actually lost my suitcase so many times, and with all these crazy stories of like Europe travel and delays and cancellations and bags being lost, I think it's really important to try to book with a credit card that has good travel protection. So for example, the Chase Sapphire Preferred is my favorite like travel credit card. Of course, there's other ones like Amex or like Chase Sapphire Reserve that have like crazy $600 fees. I think the Chase Sapphire Preferred is a perfect minimum. Essentially, if your bag is lost or there's any trip delays, that's automatically covered. Something else that I like to do is honestly just take a picture of my bag. So after I finish packing, I will go in and I'll take pictures of what was in it, so that if worse comes to worse, I need to reimburse items, I can show that, hey, like this is what I actually packed. And I remember the first time I lost my suitcase when I was going to college and I had to go fill out a form. They're like, well, what was in that bag? And at that time, I didn't really think about it, because every single time I'd come back from college, I'd pack like 2 to 3 suitcases back and forth. I'm like, oh my God, like I don't remember what I put in that suitcase. It's not only a way to find and reimburse your items, but it's also an indicator for them that if they find a suitcase, they'll go ahead and they'll peek in it and they'll see like, oh, she said that, a green jacket was in it. Here's a green jacket. This is probably the suitcase that she's missing. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Please leave questions if you still have them below. Please give this video a like and subscribe. Follow my Instagram as well. I know this was a very long and potentially confusing video because there were so many different details. But again, feel free to reach out if there's any more questions, and hopefully this helped, because I don't think I saw anybody else talk about, the different tax dividers and potentially not getting your refund back and all of that other stuff. So again, really hope that this video helped you guys. Stay safe and have a great rest of your day.